Iowa Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks was one of the few lawmakers inside the chamber during that speech. She joins us now. Congresswoman, thanks for being here. Thanks for getting up after a late night. What were your top takeaways?
Well, I thought it was interesting that the president talked about the vaccinations and getting out of the pandemic. And I certainly believe we, the people, did that because together we all sacrificed. But I also think that not mentioning how fast the vaccine to COVID-19 was developed, which is, as we know, due to President Trump, that I think that was an error on his part. It was a way to bring people together and unite people, which was part of the theme of both his inauguration and this speech tonight. He also mentioned the crisis we faced as a country, but never mentioned the border crisis and what's going on at our border. And then he also mentioned our adversaries and that we would best our adversaries. But just a small little token of that was we were given N95 masks to wear in the chambers, and they were made in China. So if we can't even get the PPE correct, made in this country and made in the USA, so much of it sounds like empty rhetoric instead of really a hopeful promise for the future.
Let me ask you something. In that clip we just heard from him at the beginning of this segment, he says that we have united. In his inaugural address, he spent a lot of time talking about the fact that he was going to unite the country. Do you feel like we are united as a country right now? Because I just feel like it seems like we're so divided on so many things.
I certainly don't feel that we as a country are united, and certainly as Republicans in the chamber, we don't feel like we're united. We are trying to work in a bipartisan fashion with our colleagues, offer suggestions, offer policies. And when the president was leaving, he even mentioned those things to us. I know Representative Troy Nehls, who is with me, had mentioned wanting to work on police reform because he's a sheriff in Texas. And he conveyed that he would be willing to do that. But really to see those overtures come to fruition, I remain hopeful, but I've yet to see that.
You mentioned the response to Russia, the response to China. You're a 24-year veteran. You know what it takes to serve our great country. Is President Biden taking the right stance when it comes to our adversaries?
I think the answer to that would be no. If you look at what's happened with Secretary Blinken and China and the summit that was held, if you call it a summit, and how we were treated as the United States, I think it's obvious that we are not taking serious what's happening. His first action coming into office was the executive order to cancel the Keystone Pipeline. And think about that and trying to get to a carbon neutral environment, which all of us, I think, want to have a cleaner environment, a safer environment, address climate change. But in canceling the Keystone Pipeline and trying to shift to an electric stance, that shifts jobs over to China. China's where solar panels are made. So it shifts jobs to China. It puts us in a continual trade deficit. And furthermore, China has egregious both environmental practices and labor practices. When we were down at the border, we learned about people coming across the border. No one gets through the border without the cartels. Everyone is paid. They're making millions of dollars a day. And the most expensive person to bring across the border is someone from China. And so I think when you look at those things, you look at his actions towards Russia, making us energy independent. We were energy independent, making us more reliant upon foreign sources of oil. I think all of that harms us when it comes to our global alliances with other nations and also our stance as a country and our national security.
You know, one other thing in your background that I'd like to tap into a little more is the physician aspect. You have many titles. You are obviously a very decorated woman. But, you talked about the vaccine at the very beginning of this. And let's go ahead and take a listen to what the president had to say on this last night.
After I promised we'd get 100 million COVID-19 vaccine shots into people's arms in 100 days, we will have provided over 220 million COVID shots. We're marshaling every federal resource. We've gotten vaccines to nearly 40,000 pharmacies and over 700 community health centers.
Look, I know it's wishful thinking to hope that, one administration can give credit to another administration. I feel like that's something we rarely see. But with how divided things do feel right now, don't you think it would go a long way to be able to just give a little credit to the previous administration for Operation Warp Speed and what they were able to accomplish?
I was certainly hoping to hear that. The administration has had numerous opportunities to credit President Trump with getting a vaccine to the marketplace, into the arms of people in 9 months. Being a former state director of public health right after H1N1, I can tell you that it's miraculous. And certainly that our researchers, doctors, scientists deserve credit for that, but they were offered the policies and the funding to get it done in record time. No safety cuts. They were all regulatory, bureaucratic red tape cuts that were made in order to bring this to the market. And certainly the president could have made some overtures in that regard. But also the press secretary, Jen Psaki, was asked this question about a month ago and mentioned, should President Trump get any credit for the vaccine, and said, no credit at all. She could have made the overture, and the President Biden could have made the overture that while President Trump got the vaccine to this level, we would encourage President Trump to come forward and help to promote that vaccine. And I think that would go a long way towards healing some of the divisions within our country and acknowledgement of the successes of the past administration and also his success in getting a vaccine into more people's arms. And I think that's a way to unite the country and bring people forward.
Absolutely. Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks, it was a pleasure talking to you this morning. Thank you for waking up early for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You all have a good day. Be safe and be well.
Thank you, Doc.